The guest artist this week is Naomi Harris. I met her over the summertime at the Eugene O'Neill Playwrights Conference, which is the most important conference for developing new work in in the country. I mean, some of the greatest. I did In the Heights. In the Heights went through there. I mean, the greatest pieces of theater have gone through this Eugene O'Neill Playwrights Conference, and our girl Naomi was working there. I said, "What's up?" We had a conversation, and we've been friends ever since. And so I'm gonna give it up to her. Naomi, what's up? Introduce yourself and tell everybody where you're from and what you about, girl.
Hey, Kyle, how's it going?
Doing well, doing well.
That's good. I'm Naomi Harris. I'm a playwright originally from Long Island. I currently live in Staten Island, though. And right now, it's all love and Black empowerment at the moment. Well, always and forever, but specifically in this moment right now, just like I'm feeling a lot about Black love and like self-care, and the idea of self-love as a revolutionary act in and of itself.
Love it. Self-love as a revolutionary act. I love it. You guys know I'm all about revolution here on the show. So, Naomi, spit it for us, whatever it is. I told them on the Instagram post, I didn't want to know. I want to be in the moment with you guys with what she wrote. So, I'm done. Here you go. Naomi Harris, dope artist, Staten Island. Boom. Get it, Naomi.
All right, this is a poem I wrote a while back, because I remember thinking to myself, I was like, you don't actually write a whole lot of, like, lovey-dovey poetry, Naomi. Everything you write is sad. And I was like, you're right, Naomi. So I was, like, looking through one of my many poetry books, and I found a love poem that I wrote, like, last year, and I was like, okay, we got to share this. So it's called A Lover's Prayer. Her eyes and the soft twist of her thighs are a revelation to me, my revelation, to know that her very lips give off the taste of heaven, an enticing sampling that makes you wait a little longer before splitting your wrist because now is just not a good time. The curve of her shoulder that with one bite and caused her to fold in on herself in laughter, and oh, how you wish you could ride the wind of her giggle through the rest of time. Her favorite spot is the dip in her spine where the small hairs remain raised and soft as velvet, that spot where beads of sweat meet for orgasmic couplings, that spot that feels like home. Her body a temple into which you have been given entry where solace and the promise of a sooner tomorrow remain for you. Get on your knees and give thanks for this blessing, for this blessed offering you are about to receive. Her very scent is the finest incense, the kind that the wise men wished they could have presented to Jesus himself. Your fingertips travel along the valley of her curves and fly through the obstacle course that is her spine, going over every vertebrae like the lines in your favorite book. From the comfort of her thighs, her breasts are mirrored orbs, reminiscent of too many sunsets or rises, caressing horizons, each one more magical than the last. You stroke her legs and opposites of the journey to her hair grows towards and said hairs now stand on end, alert and aware of a lover's presence. Her nimble fingertips spread through your hair, your scalp more than wanting and welcoming to be branded by her touch. And as you lie there at home in solace between the slopes of kneecaps, with a double sunrise rising and falling above you, you circle and follow the spiral of her navel with your fingertips, hoping that if you follow it long enough, you may caress time itself. But even that doesn't matter, because you have all the time in the world. So yeah, I was hardcore on my feelings.
Wow. All right. And what was the name of that poem again?
A Lover's Prayer.
A Lover's Prayer. I love that. I love the ending. You have all the time in the world. If I could ask you, you're the artist who wrote it, what does it mean to you to say that you have all the time in the world?
Oh, because I've always struggled with like mental illness, like ever since I was a kid. So I never really thought until like about 2 years ago that it was even possible for me to live past like 22.
Wow.
And my 22nd birthday is coming up in April.
Yes.
Which is months away, and just like the possibility that I have like years and years ahead of me to love and to be loved and to create art and put more beauty out into the world.
Yes.
Is like terrifying, but it's also really exciting to like not let my anxiety or my depression get the best of me, to like know that like I could have and will have, you know, beautiful, like bountiful future.
Yeah.
Is like what I've really been like thinking about and contemplating. So it's terrifying but exciting at the same time.
Yeah, and I think that's, you know, just hearing you say that, I think that's something that a lot of people are terrified now, because time, I don't know if you feel this, we've got some years difference between us, but I feel like time moves at a different pace now that we are inundated with information from the internet, and it's hard to sometimes even think like 2 or 3 or 4 years in advance, because it's just the day-to-day moves so fast. There's so many stories to follow. There's so much news being thrown at you. There's so much stuff that I definitely feel sometimes like I can't slow myself down and just be happy to feel time moving, you know?
Oh, most definitely. And it really is one of those things to struggle with, especially since like I was an activist in high school. I'm still an activist, but I was more active in my community when I was in college. But it's like now that I'm working, I'm like I don't have a lot of time to really involve myself in like a lot of marches or like protests, and like part of me like feels bad because I'm just like, you need to be out there doing things, but at the same time I'm like I don't have time. I'm trying to survive and save money.
Yeah.
So that's why like I've really been focusing just on like the importance of self-care, and that's what I really love about like the Black Lives Matter activists and like a lot of the activism that's been going on recently, is that there has been like this emphasis on taking care of yourself, like your mind and your body, and like putting yourself first, and how that in itself is a form of activism. Yeah. Because I feel like that isn't something that people are told often enough, that by just existing as a brown person in this country is a revolutionary act in itself. To love oneself as a brown person in this country is a revolutionary act in and of itself alone. Absolutely. And just to really sit and contemplate like just the enormity of that in itself, I feel like we're not really given the time or space to do. Especially because of like what you're saying with Paul, everything is constantly thrown at you through technology, like media and news outlets and everything. So it's like you really don't have a lot of time to just really sit and just be with yourself and find your own center, because you have so many voices and so much noise coming from every single direction. Yeah. So that's why, like, especially because it's like Black History Month, and also Valentine's Day is like popping up. This month I've really taken it upon myself to just take a step back and be like, no, we're putting Naomi first. What does Naomi need? What does Naomi want? Yeah. And that's what I've really been trying to get better at working on, in terms of putting myself and like my own like mental health first. Absolutely. And maybe which is a work in progress. So. Yeah. I think that's a work in progress right now, especially given the landscape of us opening up and finally being honest with the treatment of African Americans, with the treatment of women. I was reading Uma Thurman. She had her interview in the New York Times, and she was saying like, as they were doing Pulp Fiction and Kill Bill, she just kept doing what they told her to do, thinking the entire time of, oh, this is what is required of me as a female actor. I need to be doing these things in order to succeed. And it wasn't until she ended up crossing over the line, or not she, but the line was crossed over what
she was comfortable with, and she ended up basically getting a concussion and busting her legs open in a car accident, let alone Harvey Weinstein, aggressively sexually assaulting her. And she said that now she's much older, and it took her a very long time to recognize the ability and the importance of asking herself, what is it that I need? What is it that is important to me? And that I'm allowed to take that second in life, even if I'm an actor, even if I'm a writer, even if I'm a producer, I'm allowed to take that second and ask myself, what is it that I need in this moment to be able to survive? Because unless you feel confident in yourself, you're always going to feel like you're wanting for more. Unless you find that center and you find that confidence in who you are as a person. I struggle with it myself as well. I struggle with the sense of feeling content with what's around me. It's tough. So the next question I have on my list that I wanted to ask you is, when you're writing, when you start the process of writing, what is it that you focus on the most? In terms of, is it thematically, like right now you're talking to us about Black empowerment and the act of self-love. Is there any other themes that you always seem to gravitate towards to start with?
Ooh, it varies.
Okay.
I think it's definitely a different method with, because it's like, I'm like first and foremost a poet. Like, I've been writing poetry for as long as I can remember writing.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's always been like this sort of rhythm that I have. Like, when I start out with a piece, especially if it's like poetry, I usually don't really think it out. It'll just like come to me, and I'll start writing stuff down without really realizing what it is that I'm writing until I look it over, and I'm like, okay, this is kind of okay.
Nice.
And then we're like, okay, we just need to tweak it a little bit. It's a slightly similar thing with playwriting, in that I usually, a line or two of dialogue will pop into my head, and I'm like, that's funny.
Nice.
And then I'm like, okay, let's create a character to say this line. And I'm like, no, let's create a whole play. Let's do that. That works. And so that's how I basically go about building the play, from like multiple scenes of just all of these lines that pop out to me in my head. I'm like, okay, this character's going to say this, and then that character's going to say that. Oh, that's hilarious. We have to keep that in.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely, especially since I'm also incorporating some of my spoken word poetry into my plays as well. Yeah. So I get to keep like that fluidity, like that rhythm going in both, because it's very easy to merge the two. Especially because one of my favorite playwrights and poets ever is Ntozake Shange, and
yes,
it's because of her that I was like, oh, I can actually incorporate these two art forms and like melt them together and create something beautiful that flows and can be put on a stage. So just knowing that was when like my entire like view and perspective for writing changed, and I was like, we're gonna do whatever the fuck we want, because that's how art goes. Yes. But yeah, so it's definitely a process. I think my biggest challenge with writing is I overthink way too much. So I end up either adding a whole lot to a scene that's not necessary, or end up cutting things altogether because I don't think it works. Mm-hmm. And so it's, because I usually write huge chunks of a piece at a time for a play, it's, my difficulty is finding a way to really connect all of those large pieces in a way that flows and makes sense. Mm-hmm. So doing that is usually what requires like the majority of my focus when I'm trying to get a play finished. So then somehow it happens. How did you go about writing Wounded Sykes, and tell everyone what Wounded Sykes is about? Wounded Skies is my first full-length play that I wrote. Yes. I started writing it at the Eugene O'Neill Theater Center my very first summer that I worked there, which was in 2016. And it actually started during my NCI semester that I did there. I watched Next to Normal for the very first time.
Yes, Next to Normal.
Changed my life.
So good.
Halfway through the musical, I stopped and I wrote a poem that I later incorporated into Wounded Skies. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I have no idea who this character is, but we like have to finish writing her. And so I started writing Sky, who is my main character in this play. And it's her and this other girl named Tamara, and they're both these teenagers in high school who start off as enemies, but then they bond once they figure out that they both like struggle with self-harm and like mental health issues, and how like they fall in love, but it's also just a lot of stuff is thrown into it. There's like class issues, a lot in that one is able to get like mental health care because like her parents get her into therapy and get her medication, and so it's like her mood starts to improve, whereas Sky's like steadily gets worse because she doesn't have insurance. Oof. And like that alone I wanted to focus on because I did African American studies, sociology, and theater in school for my undergraduate, and in a lot of my classes I wrote like a lot of papers on mental health in like the Black community, and I remember reading that it was only about like approximately 20% of African Americans in the United States have some kind of health insurance. Yeah. And I was completely blown away by that because 20% is not a very high number at all. Nope. And it's like just, there's so many things, especially in terms of the way that like societal bias also comes into play with like diagnoses and how there's like a general like mistrust that a lot of Black people have towards doctors because of like the history of medical trauma and like abuse that like Black people have gone through over the course of history for all of like these discoveries and like medical inventions and like diseases. And so it's a lot harder, and it's also Black people have higher rates of being misdiagnosed with schizophrenia, specifically in regards to like microaggressions and this idea of like seeing racism where it doesn't exist, quote unquote. Yeah. And I remember just like reading that and how I was floored with that, especially because it was like the following year I was taken off of my mother's health insurance. And so it's like getting my own health insurance was a struggle in and of itself. And I didn't have insurance for almost a year. Yeah. And young people are disproportionately without health insurance as well. That's you had a double whammy there. Yeah, it's just terrifying to think about, especially the way everything is priced, especially in hospitals. How it's like even you get like a separate bill even for ambulances. Yeah, that's a whole lot of money in and of itself. Yeah, and it's just the idea that you could be turned away because you don't have the money to seek the care that you need. Yep. I think that's which was like very disheartening to think about. Yeah. And that's I'm so happy to hear that is a topic that you tackle in that show, because that's something that's easily swept under the rug. So easy in our conversations about health insurance to think that health insurance is something that's a guarantee for the middle and upper class, and forget that it's not. Just the fact of the matter is it's not a guarantee for our lower middle class and our lower classes. And those are the people who oftentimes have high levels of mental illness. I mean, the statistics bear it out. You know, it's a massive amount of percentage of homeless people in the United States. They're not homeless because they're not capable of doing things. There's a mental illness that's untreated oftentimes. And without any access to any kind of affordable health available to them, how do we expect them? You pull yourself up by your bootstraps, boy. Like, pull myself up what bootstraps? I'm unhealthy. I can barely wake up in the morning. Exactly. And also the way that mental illness is framed by like society, especially in the media, how it's always shown as some sort of weakness that people who have a mental illness just can't hack life or like get themselves together, quote unquote. When it's like, no, some of the strongest people I know have a mental illness of some kind, because it's like you are literally fighting every second of every day just to stay alive.
Yep.
And it's like the amount of strength that takes, especially as an artist, to like firstly keep yourself alive and then will yourself to go work or to go to auditions, to go to classes, and then to keep creating your art and putting your art out there. Especially if you're like anxious or like a perfectionist like I am, how it really feels like it never feels like any piece of writing that I have is finished.
Yeah.
Or is like good enough, quote unquote, but to keep sending stuff out and like trying to like get feedback or get readings is like a huge step in and of itself.
Yeah.
And so just mental illness being framed as like an inconvenience that like neurotypical people have to deal with it's extremely damaging, and it's guilt tripping in a sense, because it's like it makes people uncomfortable with the idea of coming forward because they feel that they're admitting defeat somehow by asking for help.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is extremely toxic, and it's something that we very much need to change as a society.
And that's why I'm so happy to as a person who also believes that the times that we're living in right now, we need to be revolutionary with the way we look at ourselves, and we need to be revolutionary with the kindness, empathy, and compassion that we share out into the world. That's why I'm so happy that when you told me that the topic of your piece and what you wanted to talk about was self-love as an act of revolution, I said it couldn't be better that Naomi is going to join us for the show this week. So tell everybody, Wounded Skies, it got picked up, right? It, like you got it. You sent a submission, and somebody was loving your piece, right?
I sent it in to the National Black Theater for a reading as part of their Keep Soul Alive reading series last year, and it was an amazing and terrifying and humbling and beautiful experience all at the same time.
Yes.
Oh yes, it was amazing. Just firstly because I had never been to the National Black Theater before. I had heard a lot about it, but I hadn't actually stepped foot inside it and knew that they had art exhibits all the time. So it's like the second I stepped in there, I was like, okay, this is beautiful and black as hell. Mm-hmm. I'm in love. Great. So it's just such a lovely space to be in. Like the second you step foot in that place, you're like, okay, this is home.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, the reading was absolutely amazing. Like shout out to my absolutely amazing cast and like my director, Candace. Mm-hmm. Because I have no idea how we got anything together. But it was also it was the first time that I had been able to sit back and hear my words being spoken by other people.
Yeah.
And so it was one of those moments where you realize how much of yourself you put into a piece.
Yeah.
Like even more so than you actually realize or even like intentionally think that you're putting into a piece of work. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, that's a lot. Like everybody knows everything right now. Yeah. Okay.
Well, I'll tell you what.
It was a lovely experience.
Well, I'll tell you what. Having met you last summer, and I remember you telling me about what you were working on then. I know I've only known you for less than a year, and I'm ridiculously proud of you and of all the work that you've been putting in and the kindness that you showed us. We were at O'Neill doing the Ron Bayo Daniel musical Illa, and Naomi showed us massive amounts of kindness, and we had the best time chilling out. So I can say we're going to get to Dr. Dodson here, but I just wanted to personally say thank you, Naomi, for coming on the show. I'm proud of you. I know all the people who are listening are better for hearing your voice, especially on this beautiful Black History Month where we're talking about self-love as an act of revolution, your words. So thank you so much, Naomi, and I can only ever wish you the maximum amount and continued amount of success.
Thank you, Carl. And same to you. I see you over here. Like, I'm always checking your Instagram and your Facebook to see what you got going on. Especially after I saw you were doing Lion King, I was like, all right, he's doing it. He's creating art. He's going big. Everybody go home.
Yeah, you know it. We're not gonna stop. We're gonna keep out here. We're gonna be revolutionary. Our art will be our revolution, and we'll get in those streets when we need to get in those streets. I'll see you out there.
Exactly, most definitely.
All right, Naomi. Great talking to you. We'll talk to you later.
Always. All righty.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.
Man, that's what I'm talking about. That right there, that Naomi Harris, come on. Self-love is an act of revolution. You don't hear that very often. I think she might be 22. I think she said she's 22 years old. How often do you hear a 22-year-old out here recognizing how much Dr. Dodson over here on Station Ed, and when she was talking about self-love and self-care, he says amen to self-care. Why? This man is a psychologist. This man knows how the importance of that, and I'm so happy to see. And I've got Valerie over here, Valerie Mormon Sampson, family, what's up? Valerie saying, I tell people I've lived with depression and anxiety because it's always been a part and it always will be. Do we suffer? Sometimes, yeah. But people need to know, we need them to understand that we are managing it. You have to understand that, like what Naomi said, is the strength it takes to live with some form of mental illness is unparalleled. And the fact that we have legislators out here that are not taking this seriously, like, you know, your boy, I always got to talk about him, your boy Donald Trumpito, oh, lame man, don't even get me started, I'm going to get heated. All I got to say is he deliberately attempting to make Obamacare, or what is the appropriate term, Affordable Care Act, deliberately attempting to make that fail is not hurting him. It's not hurting people who have access to health. It's hurting people with mental illness. It's hurting people with disabilities. When you play that game, and even with the shutdown, you play the shutdown game. It's not hurting them at the top. It's hurting us. It's hurting your family members. It's hurting my family members. People who need to be able to get up and go to work. The VA, the benefits for our veterans that come back, those years of backlogs. They won't let these guys try other medicinal things that aren't narcotics and freaking opioids. They won't let them. They won't let them go and try and give it a shot. Man, if you shot bullets and have bullets shot at you across the sea, and you want to smoke some marijuana to try and figure out if it can help you sleep at night, you should better damn well be able to smoke some marijuana. Like, look, you don't believe in legalization for the country, fine, but let these guys have an opportunity to get their health back in order. We joke around with mental health, and it pisses me off. So I don't mean no disrespect, y'all, but you know, when I get heated, it just comes out. And I wish I had time to write something this week, because Trump's out here talking about military parades and stuff. I might have to write something about that next week. But anyway, that being said, we're going to take a quick music break, and when we get back, we're going to talk to Dr. Milo Dodson, buddy of mine from Notre Dame. This man is all over the country. He works, I know, we'll see what he's doing right now. I know he's worked with Common, the rapper Common, and his charities in Chicago, and that's why I wanted him to come on. We did the public school education episode because I know he's got experience with that. So we're going to talk to him when we come back from the break. The song we're going to play for the break is by a buddy of mine. His name is Ron Bay O'Daniel. Check him out. He goes by Ron Bay. This is You and I, and you might recognize some vocals because they might be from, who is that? Yours truly. Here we go. Ron Bay, You and I. Let's get into it.